Whether the Unitarian Church of Evanston is your spiritual home or you are seeking comfort and connection in uncertain times, we are grateful you are with us. We are an inclusive and welcoming community, seeking truth in love and striving to nurture the human spirit for a world made whole. We are guided by our principles and values, which remind us in every moment and through every challenge that each of us matters, and that we are all connected through the vast and beautiful web of existence. Together, let us remember our oneness, our kinship with one another, and may we hold one another in heart and mind with tenderness and careful attention. There are many links of connection in the comments section, including credits for the readings and links to virtual religious education for donations and to be added to our email newsletter list. The all-church Zoom meeting will be on Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. We'll send a reminder email in the early afternoon on Wednesday with the link. After our service today, we will gather for a farewell Zoom party for Reverend Karen Gustafson. The party is during our regular coffee hour, and you can find the link in the comments below or in the newsletter. We hope you will join us to express our gratitude and give our best wishes to Reverend Karen. Please note that our June 20th and June 27th worship services will be live streamed at 11 a.m. instead of our usual 11:15. Look in the newsletter for the details. The Shared Plate program for next year is underway. Each month we give half of our collection plate to an organization that helps us live into our mission of making the world whole. If you would like to nominate an organization for next year's Shared Plate program, please submit a form through our website. The link is in the newsletter and in the comments section. The deadline is June 30th. Wednesday evenings in July, the Faith Formation Force invites you to join us for Wednesdays in the Lawn. Food, faith, family, fun, and fellowship for all ages from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. Please check the newsletter for more information and mark your calendars. These outdoor gatherings will be a wonderful way to begin to gather together in person safely and with joy. And now I invite you to get your chalices ready. Set a place for yourself and your family as we join in beloved community. Welcome to worship.
The Sunflowers by Mary Oliver. Come with me into the field of sunflowers. Their faces are burnished discs. Their dry spines creak like ship masts. Their green leaves, so heavy and many, fill all day with the sticky sugars of the sun. Come with me to visit the sunflowers. They are shy, but want to be friends. They have wonderful stories of when they were young, the important weather, the wandering crows. Don't be afraid to ask them questions. Their bright faces which follow the sun will listen, and all those rows of seeds, each one a new life, hope for a deeper acquaintance. Each of them, though it stands in a crowd of many, like a separate universe, is lonely. The long work of turning their lives into a celebration is not easy. Come, and let us talk with those modest faces, the simple garments of leaves, the coarse roots in the earth, so uprightly burning.
My blood doth rise in the roots of yon oak, and sap doth run in my veins. Boundless my soul, like the open sky, where the stars forever have lain. Where the stars forever have lain. My hands hold the weavings of time without end. My side as deep as the sea, beating my heart sounds the measures of old, that of love's eternity. That of love's eternity. My foot carries days of the old into new. Our dreaming shows us the way. Unless our faith settles deep in the earth, rising green to bring a new day. Rising green to bring a new day.
We light our chalices in northern Illinois on the traditional homelands of the Council of the Three Fires, the Odawa, Ojibwe, and Potawatomi nations. Many other tribes, such as the Miami, Menominee, Ho-Chunk, Sac, and Fox, also call this area home. We name these in honor and respect for the land, all the animals and plants that have lived on and through the land, and all people who have been and remain a part of the earth. We name these as one small effort toward greater accountability and deeper relationship with our ancestors and descendants. In faith, together we light this small scrap of light, symbol of Grandfather Sun's enormous power, whose energy burns so brightly. In these summer days of deep summer, catapulting the leaves and vines, vegetables, flowers, and fruits to astonishing size, lengths, and heights, spilling over the tops of cages, walls, and trellises, delighting and nourishing all beings.
And please join in saying the words of our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And join in singing our hymn 357, The Bright Morning Stars Are Rising.
Bright morning stars are rising. Bright morning stars are rising. Bright morning Oh, where are our dear mothers? Oh, where are our dear mothers? Oh, where are our dear mothers? Days of breaking in my soul. They are sowing seeds of gladness. They are sowing seeds of gladness. They are sowing seeds of gladness. Days of breaking in my soul.
Our time for all ages is Miss Rumphius by Barbara Cooney. The lupine lady lives in a small house overlooking the sea, and between the rocks around her house grow blue and purple and rose-colored flowers. The lupine lady is little and old, but she has not always been that way. I know. She is my great aunt, and she told me so. Once upon a time she was a little girl named Alice who lived in a city by the sea. Many years ago, her grandfather had come to America on a large sailing ship. Now he worked in a shop at the bottom of the house, where he was an artist. When he was very busy, Alice helped him paint in the skies. In the evening, she sat on her grandfather's knee and listened to his stories of faraway places. When I grow up, I too will go to faraway places. And when I grow old, I too will live by the sea. That is all very well, little Alice, said her grandfather, but there is a third thing you must do. What is that? You must do something to make the world more beautiful. All right, said Alice, but she did not know what that could be. And pretty soon she was grown up. Then my great aunt Alice set out to do the 3 things she had told her grandfather she was going to do. She left home and went to live in another city far from the sea, where she worked in a library. People called her Miss Rumphius now. Sometimes she went to a conservatory, where the warm, moist air wrapped itself around her, and the sweet smell of jasmine filled her nose. It's almost like a tropical isle, said Miss Rumphius, but not quite. So Miss Rumphius went to a real tropical island, where people kept cockatoos and monkeys as pets. Then she climbed tall mountains where the snow never melted, and went through jungles and across deserts. And everywhere she made friends she would never forget. And there, getting off a camel, she hurt her back. Well, I have certainly seen faraway places. Maybe it is time to find my place by the sea. And it was, and she did. From the porch of her new house, Miss Rumphius watched the sun come up and watched it set in the evening. She started a little garden among the rocks surrounding her house. Miss Rumphius was almost perfectly happy. But there is still one more thing I have to do. I have to do something to make the world more beautiful. But what? The world already is pretty nice, she thought. The next spring, Miss Rumphius was not very well. Her back was bothering her, and she had to stay in bed. The flowers she had planted the summer before had come up and bloomed. Lupines, said Miss Rumphius with satisfaction. I have always loved lupines the best. I wish I could plant more seeds this summer. But she was not able to. After a hard winter, spring came. Miss Rumphius was feeling much better. Now she could take walks again. One afternoon she started to go up and over the hill. I don't believe my eyes, she cried when she got to the top. For there on the other side of the hill was a large patch of blue and purple and rose-colored lupines. It was the wind. It was the wind that brought the seeds from my garden here, and the birds must have helped. Then Miss Rumphius had a wonderful idea. She hurried home and got out her seed catalogues and sent off for the very best seed. And all that summer Miss Rumphius, her pockets full of seeds, wandered over fields and headlands sowing lupines. She scattered seeds along the highways and down country lanes, tossed them into hollows and along stone walls. Her back didn't hurt her any more. The next spring there were lupines everywhere, fields and hillsides covered with blue and purple and rose-colored flowers. They bloomed along the highways and down the lanes, and in the hollows and along the stone walls. Miss Rumphius had done the third, most difficult thing of all. My great Aunt Alice, Miss Rumphius, is very old now. Her hair is very white. Every year there are more and more lupines. Now they call her the Lupine Lady. When I grow up, I tell her, I too will go to faraway places and come home to live by the sea. That is all very well, little Alice, says my aunt, but there is a third thing you must do. What is that? I ask. You must do something to make the world more beautiful. All right, I say, but I do not know yet what that will be. The end. So what seeds will you plant? And what will you do to make the world more beautiful?
Good morning. These are the joys and sorrows that have been submitted through the Google form found on the homepage of our website. Alternatively, you can always send an email to me or to Reverend Susan ahead of Sunday morning for inclusion in this worship service. Janelle Britton shares that she is exceedingly grateful for the amazing support of this UCE community after her husband passed on. The food, cards, calls, and emails have made her feel wonderfully supported and not alone. Thank you, all. And Ellie and Tim Feddersen share the exciting news that they are looking forward to becoming grandparents sometime in early December. Sophia and Sandeep are pregnant. Congratulations, Ellie and Tim. And we know that these are not the only joys and sorrows that are on our hearts and on our minds in this community and in the world beyond. And so we take some time to hold together a moment where we can review things that are added to the chat or just silently hold these things on our hearts, knowing that the joys and sorrows are expansive, and that by holding them together, we lessen the burden of our grief and we expand our celebrations. So let us take a moment to hold these together in beloved community. I invite you to join me now in the spirit of prayer and meditation. This is a bouquet of people written by Claire Feingold Thorne, who serves the fallen UU Church in Lexington, Massachusetts, and was raised as a Unitarian Universalist. This prayer is modeled after a well-known and much cherished prayer by the late Reverend Max Coots. Let us give thanks for a bouquet of people. We give thanks for children. Like tulips and iris, they multiply around us, making the world ever more filled with color, beauty, and new life. May we bless them as they replant themselves ever further from us, knowing that they need their own space to grow into. We give thanks for generous friends, as constant in bloom as echinacea, and whose gifts lift up our body and spirit. We give thanks for feisty friends, as indomitable as geraniums, and for continuous friends who, like bittersweet and ivy, hold on and never let go and can never be gotten rid of. For crotchety friends as prickly as rose bushes, their beauty a secret that is only discovered through careful gardening. For surprising friends who are at first glance seem dour and then blossom into joy as quickly as forsythia. For funny friends, silly as snapdragons, and serious friends, complex as chrysanthemums. For comfortable friends, their gentle presence as soothing as the sweet smell of lilacs. For stormy weather friends who stand by us in hard times, like lily of the valley that cannot be deterred by shade or shadow. For old friends nodding like sunflowers in the evening time, and young friends coming on fast as flocks. For friends as unpretentious as dogwood, as persistent as pachysandra, as steadfast as azalea, and who, like snowdrops, can be counted on to see you through the winter and remind you that spring always comes. For loving friends who wind around us like wisteria and embrace us despite our blights, wilts, and witherings. And finally, for forget-me-not friends, gone but never forgotten. Their beauty lives on in our memories and hearts. For this bouquet of people who brighten our lives each in their own way, we give thanks. Amen.
Hands open to the day. Breathe in, breathe out. Hands joined as if to pray. Breathe in, breathe out. Arms reaching to the sky, then circling around down to the earth, eyes lifted to the light, to the light. breathe out. Arms reaching to the sky, then circling around down to the earth. Eyes lifted to the light, to the light. Hands open to the day. Breathe in, breathe out. Hands joined as if to pray. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out.
UCE remains a vital part of the world and our community, and we engage in the spiritual practice of generosity, knowing that we need one another and are accountable to one another. And so each week we take an offering and we share our plate. Today's offering will be shared with the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights. And here to speak about this worthy organization is Mary Ellen McGoey.
The Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights, created in 1986, is a statewide coalition of more than 100 organizations dedicated to promoting the rights of all immigrants and refugees, regardless of ethnic origin. As a result of the pandemic, the coalition established the COVID-19 Immigrant Family Support Project to provide direct assistance to families that have been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic and its economic consequences. The goal is to serve one of the most underserved populations through this crisis. Low-income immigrants who live in Illinois have seen a reduction in their income due to COVID-19 and who are not eligible for the federal stimulus package, unemployment insurance, or public benefits. The coalition is one of the few organizations which has tried to mitigate some of the effects of the virus in a population which is ineligible for most government relief. In the years since its founding, the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights has proven to be a powerful voice for the refugees of Illinois. It's the state's largest multi-ethnic immigrant advocacy organization. It forcefully advocates for a population which receives little to no governmental funding for basic necessities or legal assistance, that has only a handful of advocates in official bodies lobbying for its rights, and lives under multiple threats, including deportation, family separation, arrest, and violence. You can find out more about the coalition's many legislative and other initiatives on their website, which is listed in the order of service.
You can text to give. Send in a check, or give from our website. If you send in a check, please indicate in the memo line if your check is for the shared offering, for your pledge, or a capital campaign contribution, or some other giving. Please give as generously as you are able, and may what you give bring you joy.
The reading this morning is called Wondering What to Water, and it's written by Jordan Nelson Long, our colleague serving the Unitarian Memorial Church in Fairhaven, Massachusetts, and it was written in the spring of 2020. I have these tomato plants. I ordered them from New Jersey, and they arrived improbably via the U.S. Postal Service. They came packed in a priority mailbox and appeared on our porch a couple of days late. There was a shutdown. The apologetic email explained of the sending post office due to a confirmed COVID case among its staff. But they came, dirt and all, 12 leafy seedlings, and I repotted them amidst the gray sky and slanting rain of a coastal storm. Baby tomato plants, like your grandparents had, arrived in a box passed along by the hands of our government under the auspices of an entity that once delivered the post on horseback. I ordered them on the internet, on Etsy, specified with a click what I wanted, paid for them without so much as touching my wallet. I summoned them, these fruit bearers, without using a telephone and without leaving my house, so that I can put them in the ground, in the earth, in the place where feet have walked and hands have tilled for hundreds, maybe thousands of years, so that I can participate in the oldest of occupations for those who would live together, calling a single place home, cultivating plants to feed us. The thing is, not all of these tomato plants are survivors. I am, to put it mildly, not known for my gardening skill, so the calculus of loss was with us from the beginning of this endeavor. But skill or no, my eyes or my body or my ancestral knowledge know some things about surviving, about survivors and casualties, about things it is best not to store our hopes within. I looked sideways at those 12 plants that first night, and I could already tell that 4 of them might not make it. And even so, I oriented all 12 toward the sun. Even so, I kept watering. I kept watering, and they kept doing whatever it is that transplanted, boxed, mailed, questionable variety tiny tomato seeds do. Some of them showed signs of thriving. Some of them, to be exact, wilted. Day by day, I leaned down, looked, felt soil, assessed chances. Day by day, little changed. And then 2 days ago, watering the tiny tomato plants, I wondered when it is you stop. Is it when the plant first wilts, or after that, when long gone it crumbles away to dust? Was the time to stop caretaking those 4 tomatoes that first night when I already knew that they wouldn't make it, or the next morning, every sign of failure to thrive unchanged? I can be cynical at times, can, when appropriately motivated, be calculating. I am no relentless optimist. But as someone who believes in things that grow, in powers that lie beyond my own hands, in science beyond my own understanding, I do not know when you stop watering. It's not that I have time to water dead things. I don't. I won't. That's the answer. That is when the thing is dead, we care for it with our love, not with our hands. How from the post office that life has been a lifeline to rural communities for hundreds of years, and now needs a lifeline of its own, to this plant that may or may not have the power within itself to make fruit for this summer and seeds for yet another year. Do you decide what dead means? Sometimes we know, but sometimes we don't. And in the fraught and holy in between, in the space of negotiated survival of our tomatoes, of our relationships, of our institutions, of our legacies. All I know of faith is to keep watering. The quilt of community that holds us includes the newborn and the dying, both of which need care, and it holds also the not dead yet. We live our lives beholden to the uncertain inheritance and to the contested moralities of things we choose to rehabilitate, to believe in, to hold as they find their way into our hands. 3 of those 4 tomatoes plants are gone now, 8 days later and unquestionably dead. But the 4th lost every last one of its leaves, but it did not lie down on the soil. Its stem is green. Its roots are growing. I have questions I can't answer. It needs things I cannot give it: water, light, and whatever lies within it will have to be enough. But it was given to me, and I am going to water it. Please join me now in singing "Life Calls Us On." The words will be on the screen.
Spirit of grace, that
Many thanks to Vickie and Adam and all the performers who made that piece possible. That was really beautiful. All our lives, we are learning how to grow things. In my garden, where I've replaced a lawn of crabgrass with a bed of perennial flowers and plants, I've learned how to grow things and how things grow. Some things pop up fast, like dandelions, and others take years to blossom. I'm beginning to understand what to prune and pull, what nutrients and how much water is needed, when to cover with mulch and when to let leaves wither in place. All our lives, we are learning how to cultivate and nurture relationships, encouraging them to thrive and learning how and when to let go. I've learned in the garden of community, though trust takes forever to grow, it can be lost in an instant. Yet as long as we're living, there is always a chance to regrow it. Like the ornamental lily that has grown along my garage for more than a decade, producing these beautiful, delicate red and yellow flowers in late summer, which someone in my household, who shall remain nameless, has taken an enthusiastic weed whacker to. Yet the leaves are returning. Reverend Pyle reminded those of us in coffee hour last week, a few weeks ago, that in creedal faith traditions, belief is the central unifying principle, but in covenantal faiths like ours, trust is the central principle. Our covenants are built upon mutual trust, long cultivated and lovingly tended. Trust is forged through difficult and honest conversations as we struggle together for collective liberation through making mistakes, saying I'm sorry, and forgiving one another. Trust grows with compassionate communication, persistently practiced. Trust is the food for everything we do as a community in service to our mission. We've done some incredible work together this year. With Reverend Karen's help, we've looked at how we communicate, established expectations of one another and with one another, and set up nimble structures that can support our work together without bogging us down. We've established a committee on shared ministry to enhance communication, help uphold expectations, and foster mutual accountability. We've weathered tremendous uncertainty and loss, and we've moved further as a congregation on the journey of anti-oppression. Our work is not done, and it never will be. Tending and cultivating mutual trust, which gives breath to our covenantal faith, is a lifelong endeavor. We face much uncertainty as we plan for a future more accessible, inclusive, and life-affirming, even for dogs. I hear from many of you how eager you are to return to in-person gatherings. And if you haven't yet filled out the survey that was in the newsletter, please do so this week. Many of those who've responded said you miss most visiting with one another and singing together. And as we continue to plan a return to those things, I have been reminded by a dear friend that we must not return to a place of complacency or acceptance of risk in which the burden of risk is unequally distributed. Some bodies have always carried greater risk due to the color of their skin, their gender, or their disabilities, those observed and those unnoticed. Let us remember that each life is precious and beautiful, and no one's life is acceptable collateral damage in exchange for physical closeness. This year, we have come to fear one another for our own survival. We have become wary of each other's faces and breath. We will need to learn to regrow and practice trust. As we come back to in-person gathering, let's remember to check in with each other, to practice trusting one another as we talk about our discomfort, our fears and concerns, and the ways that we live in beloved community and strive to live our mission. Let us be willing to do the messy and painful work of establishing consent and mutual care. Are you okay with hugs? Are you comfortable without masks? I'm vaccinated. Are you willing to talk about that? These are questions that we'll need to negotiate with one another in relationships of care. I am grateful for all of you. I am grateful for the ways that you have tended your relationships with one another and with our congregation as a whole. I am grateful for the ways that you have continued to nurture spirits and strive to make the world whole. I am grateful for your willingness to adapt and change, to say hard things when they need to be said. And I'm grateful for Reverend Karen for her wisdom and guidance, for reminding us that what binds us together and what will keep us thriving is our commitment to our shared mission and purpose. Let us continue to work toward building mutual trust, sowing the seeds of covenant through honest conversation and accountable relationships, where each of us matters and each of us is called and invited to be our full selves. And when we hurt one another, as we inevitably will, let us struggle to stay in covenant, because that's when it matters most. That's where trust is forged and strengthened. May we continue to cultivate the garden of beloved community. You're muted, Karen. You're muted, Karen. Yeah.
As some of you have observed, I can milk a metaphor with the best of them. Flower communion is a golden opportunity to draw on the wealth of wonderful gardening metaphors, including the beautiful story of the tomato plants in today's reading by Jordan Nelson Long. For me, the deep meaning often comes when I find myself and those I know somewhere in the story and see our relationships played out in sometimes new and surprising ways. I found myself in the story of the tomato plant somewhere in the backstory, in the place where the soil was tilled and the seeds were selected and sown. I had been there in the greenhouse when the first tiny shoots showed themselves, where I saw to it that the light and water were just right. I had looked on when the 12 sturdy little plants were placed carefully in the specially prepared priority mailboxes and taken to the post office and left, perhaps with a blessing, to be delivered with full expectation of their timely arrival. I could only imagine where they might go. Would they be on a balcony of a city apartment or a tiny tenement garden among the perennials around a house in the suburbs? Surely I would have to entertain the possibility that some of them would not live to bear fruit. I could only hope that they might find a place in the ground, in the earth, in a place where feet have walked and hands have tilled for hundreds, maybe thousands of years, by those who would know the privilege of participating in that oldest occupation for those who would live together, calling a single place home, cultivating plants to feed us. This is not unlike the place I have found myself in the story of UCE. For nearly 2 years now, I have been tilling soil and planting seeds. I have invited you to cultivate the soil of your shared stories and to find that single purpose that would unite you beyond particular differences. Together, we have dug up some of the stones that have interfered with healthy roots. We have erected boundaries and experimented with new ways to water and even fertilize. And whatever value added has come from my presence among you, it is still your garden, your church, your beloved community. Whatever I have brought here is yours to claim. It has been a gift to me to be received as enthusiastically and graciously as you have received me and my gifts. Like the enthusiasm that greets new seeds, it will fade in time as the realities of sustained commitment settle in. Some of the promising beginnings of this time will not survive. Old patterns of neglect will resurface, and some of those promising beginnings will take root and in time will become as sturdy as the giant shade trees on the lawn. In a few weeks, I will be closing my UCE Zoom connection and turning my full attention to my own garden. I will miss you. The individuals with whom I have worked most closely, the staff, the transition team, the board and committees, and those of you who have shared the stories that have informed my work. I will miss the light structure of meetings and worship preparation that stimulate my thinking and often keep me humble. And it is time. My father left this earth after 86 years, 46 of which he had been, along with my mother, the most important people in my life. On the day that he died, my son, then about 12, expressed concern about me being an orphan. "Oh, Bob," I said, "a good parent leaves their children with whatever they need to live without them. We will miss Grandpa, but I got everything I needed a long time ago. We can be sad, but mostly we can be grateful, and we can keep loving him through the good that we do in the world." Now, this is only partially relevant story here, but I think it's a good story. In fact, UCE already had a lot of what you needed before I got there. It came to you through the work of other ministers and through the continuing love and commitment of everyone who has claimed a part of this community. What has been broken has been repaired, sometimes over and over again. I turned up some soil, planted some seeds. Every day now, I think of something else that I might have offered you because it would be fun, but you have enough of me to last a good long time. It is yours now. Keep watering. On June 19th, from 9:30 until noon, I will have an open Zoom room where I will be providing an opportunity to review the work of the interim and to field your thoughts and next steps. Details about how to sign up will be in the newsletter. Oh, and one more thing, and this is no afterthought. The element that has the greatest potential to enhance the UCE garden is your newly settled minister. She is well on her way to becoming a master gardener who understands the whole trajectory of the growing process. She has been in the weeds. She has been a faithful waterer. She has blessed the tiny shoots and seen them grow. She has persevered in droughts and deluges. She has held fast to an inclusive vision that many of you have claimed. If you can partner with her, trust her, respect and forgive her imperfections, and accept her emerging vision of shared ministry, there is no limit to the beauty that you can cultivate together. In closing, the words of our anthem today. We have shared a radiant hour, and the truth has made us free. And the Spirit's gracious power dreamed of good that yet shall be. Bright the path lies before us. Joyful pilgrims, now we rise. Love calls us on, and life calls us on. Thank you.
As we extinguish the chalice, please join in saying these words. Though the flame is extinguished, we carry with us the warmth of community, the light of truth, and the fire of commitment until we are together again.
Let us go planting seeds of faith in one another and cultivating the soil of beloved community and making the world more beautiful. And I hope to see you all at the party to celebrate Reverend Karen. The link is in the Show More section.